Hello everybody and welcome to Dynamic GT League Special 4 Cup for race 4 of 9 from the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Before we see how qualifying went, let's take a look at the current championship standings. Ignore the Suzuka map, that's just an error. After 3 rounds, Steve F1 is leading the way on 55 points ahead of SGP on 45. Tyler only one behind him on 44. Bit of a gap then to Demon R in 4th place on 39 points, and SRI, he'll be getting a few nosebleeds being that high up on 28 points in 5th. Mitch drops down to 6th. David Harp and Rich Blues are tied 7th on 21 points. Formula Gary sits in 9th on 17. Jason is in 10th on 16 points, and one behind him is Connor, and one behind him is Twilight. 2 behind Twilight is Fluffy in 13th place. Hay sits in 14th on 9 points, while Jimmy's in 15th on 7 points, and Bunsell, with that big hit of the penalties last week, sits in 16th place on 1 point. Unfortunately, we can't show qualifying given the nature of the game. Unfortunately, we can't get the replay of it, but we can tell you how qualifying went. So let's take a look. Sitting on pole position again is Steve F1. I shouldn't complain, it makes it easy for me doing the graphics, but yeah, pole position for him, but he's joined this time by SGP on the front row. Tyler drops down to row 2 and he's joined there by Jason, so it's an all VW row 1 and 2. We've then got Demon R in the Toyota on row 3 alongside David Harp in the Alpha, Fluffy and Formula Gary right behind them, Gary being the first of the Subarus. On row 5 we've got SRI alongside Jimmy, and then we've got Rich in P11 alongside Twilight, so all the Subarus are together. Twilight seemingly struggling a little bit in the qualifying sessions. Row 7 sees Bunsell ahead of Hay, who unfortunately couldn't get a lap time in. Anyway, it was an interesting qualifying session, but the race should be even more exciting, so I'll stop waffling and I'll hand over to our commentary team. And joining me on commentary today is Connor. How are you today, Connor?
I'm good, Dave. We're back in England in quarantine after 2 weeks and we're at Brands Hatch.
That we are. Let's get ready for a party in the park. So Steve F1 sitting on pole position at his favourite track, Brands Hatch, as we wait for the lights to go out, and away they go, and it is again an awful start for the VWs as they all try to get to the inside. David Harp in the Alpha going around the outside, Demon R squeezed in the middle, and Gary once again trying to get to the front, but David Harp leads the way down towards Druids.
Yeah, there's a lot of door banging as the Subarus try and get through as the two VWs battle into this corner.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Steve F1 and SGP have done fantastically well to at least hold on to 2nd and 3rd at the moment, but they are coming under pressure from Formula Gary and Jimmy and SRI. 3 of the 4 Subarus getting much further up into the grid. Could mean we're in for an interesting race here, especially with David Harp leading the way as we head through Surtees and onto the back straight, of which I can't remember what the name is, but Steve F1's already on the back of him.
The straight line speed of that VW, I don't think Dave will be able to defend into the next corner.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, VW over Alpha. The Alpha's got the speed through the corners, so whether Dave's going to be able to fight back around here or not, I do not know. But yeah, Steve F1, as I mentioned, this is his favourite track. He is the favourite. Oh, Tyler, he dropped a lot of places at the start, down to 6th. He's got Jason right behind him as well, and Jimmy. I think Tyler's actually made his way past Jimmy.
Oh, they've got a car on the grass.
Yeah, I think that was SRI. It's got a lot of cars on the grass and the gravel there. Don't know exactly what.
Demon R and Rich Blues.
Yeah, I think there's Demon R, Rich Blues. I think Fluffy's in there as well. I think Bunsell might have been involved in that one. I'm not entirely sure, but there's going to be a few people dropping stones across the track. Steve F1 opening up a gap straight away, and I don't think SGP can really afford to let Steve F1 run away here, because if he does, he might not see him again.
Yeah, I don't think Dave will want to let SGP pass. It's been a difficult season so far in the Alpha, and he'll be wanting to keep this result.
Yeah, he definitely will. Oh, but he's dipped a wheel on the grass there as they're heading up to Druids. Oh, SRI giving Gary a damn good punting into the hairpin. Gary's survived it. Ray's gone across the grass to stay out of the way. I hope he's still not waiting for Gary, because Gary's gone. Gary's down there, look.
Yeah, I know. I know SRI is that Subaru's got the boxer engine, but he wasn't pulling any punches there.
Definitely not. He's now got Demon R behind him, and SGP hasn't got past David Harp yet, but I get the feeling Dave's going to be going quack, 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 quack down this straight.
Where's that, the car or one more?
Both. Well, a duck's arse is usually quite wet, so God knows what noise he'll be making. But anyway, yeah, Dave the Arp's doing well actually though to keep SGP behind him. Jason's starting to close in a little bit on Formula Gary. So even though Gary got bumped to be in the hairpin, he's actually doing okay. He's still in 4th place. Oh, is that Hay running wide? Yes, it is.
It is, yeah.
SRI making the move.
Yeah, just looking for the Toyotas that don't seem to be anywhere near the pack at the minute. They just seem to be lagging behind. I noticed on the first lap the Demon R lost a few positions, and maybe that's what dropped them into trouble.
Yeah, I think what it is, I think the Toyotas basically got swamped by the Subarus behind them and then couldn't get anywhere forward, and that's how the VWs have managed to hold on to a few of those places. As we see Demon R and no, that's Jason now we're having a look at. So Jason ahead of Tyler, and he's closing in on Formula Gary. SRI's got Jimmy right up his chuffers. Jason going for the move up the inside. A little bit of contact. Not
Can
surprised
Tyler
by
following
that.
through?
He's going to try. Is he going to have a look up the inside into Druids? Gary's not defending it. Oh yes, he is now. Maybe a little late there, as we can see a big trail of cement dust where someone's dropped some oil around that track. I did hear that Dave the Harp was seen walking the track earlier with a jerry can, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
I know he had a can, but not sure what can it was.
No, I wouldn't know either. SGP, interestingly, having a look at attacking Dave through a corner. I can only guess that Dave Yard went a little bit wide there.
The VW definitely didn't struggle with understeer going through that corner.
No, not at all, as Tyler now all over the back of Formula Gary, or actually all alongside Formula Gary, and the straight line speed is absolutely brilliant in that VW. The Subaru can compete, but not if you rev it out in its rev limiter. It'll be interesting to see if Gary can fight back now or not. SRI leads Demon R and Twilight, I think it is, as we know it's Hay behind Demon R, as Demon R trying to close in on SRI.
Difficult section, this back section. It's just about getting the car turned in, avoiding the grass.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in the past people dipping a wheel on the exit to that right-hander and very easily spin. I think Jason was probably one of the more famous ones for it in the past. And the thing is, with the cars these guys are in, the guys in the VWs and the Subarus should be okay, even if they do dip a wheel. As Demon are trying to have a look up the inside of SRI, but SRI is having absolutely none of it. He may wear a kilt now and again, but he definitely ain't giving this one up easy.
No, Demon are just looking around the outside. Can he get the cut back into the hairpin? Doesn't look like he can.
It looks like SRI is going to cover it off, and maybe Demon R is going to try and go round the outside, which might not be a bad idea in the Toyota, but that Subaru's just got so much acceleration.
Yeah, that was it nearly got too much acceleration there for SI. It nearly ended up in the marshal's post.
He did. I must admit, Brands Hatch is one of those tracks I absolutely love it, as Demon R is having another look at SRI into the corner, into Surtees. It's a lovely move, but can SRI do the switchback? Yes, he can, and in boost that Subaru acceleration once again.
Yeah, just noticed a bit of tyre smoke there. Demon R coming out the corner sideways. I think that's hampered his exit a bit.
That it has. So they're still side by side then, going through the right-handers. This is absolutely great stuff, but it's allowing Hay and Rich to close it as well. Twilight and Jimmy also there. Or maybe a little bit of contact between the two of them as they try and give each other room. This now is dangerous into the next right-hander. You mentioned about not dipping a wheel. They're going to have to hope that neither do here. Ray's off.
How many wheels was that?
I think there was Gay Ray's off. He's not gay, he is Ray, but he's not off anymore.
As he just joined back alongside of Rich there. Rich manages to get ahead.
That he does. I mean, Ray was unfortunate there, was SRI. It's just one of those things through that right-hander. The last thing you want to be is on the outside, because the risk of running wide when you're giving someone space is so great. But that has now put Rich under pressure from SRI, who's trying to attack A through the first corner down Paddock Hill Bend, I think it's called.
Yeah, Hayes not doing too bad this race. He's getting stuck in. He's got the Subarus ganging up on him now.
Oh, just talking about ganging up, we've got two VWs of Jason and Tyler who have closed up to each other, but also closed in onto the back of Dave the Harp now. I'll tell you what, Dave the Harp, he's going to wish there wasn't a mirror, or at least a rear view camera.
Or at least this straight next as well. As Jason's already passed him, Tyler's going to come past Shuley in the using the toe from Jason.
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised though. That's twice that Dave has been overtaken in the corner by a VW. I don't know whether he's attacking that corner a little too hard and he's ending up running a little bit deep and not quite getting the grip.
Yeah, it just looks like he's leaving it. He's leaving it too far to the right and he's catching the marbles and he's just drawing him round.
It definitely could be. Jimmy all over the back of Hay, trying to get him out of position as Twilight has managed to get past them. He's now trying to attack the back of Rich Blues. We're only 7-8 minutes into this race and it's already been absolutely frantic. This is great stuff. I've got SRI dipping a wheel again, but gets away with it. That's like I said, you can do that in the Subaru, as Demon R is now all over the back of Formula Gary.
Yeah, Bunsel's just coming up to the back of them as well now as he gets past Jimmy.
Aye, that he is. Interestingly though, Steve F1 at the front, just to let you know folks, Steve F1 has opened up a big gap up at the front to SGP. I think he may be gone and done for today, as Demon Oz looks like he's got a decent run on Gary. Gary needs to just focus on hitting his braking point, getting that apex, getting the power down. Oh, Demon Oz taking quite a bit of curb there, but it's to get the exit and he's going to try and go around the outside, is he? I doubt it, but we saw him trying
He wants
earlier.
to be careful for the other Subarus going down the inside. Is there a bit of contact?
Yeah, you're right, there was. SRI slots in behind. I mean, to be fair, SRI did nothing wrong having a look up there. Oh, Gary's run wide. Ooh, this could get tricky.
Well, there's some bright liveries, isn't there, together in this train?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. You might not know about the story as SRI chucks it up the inside of Surtees. It's a lovely overtake. Demon R may have the slipstream, but no, Gary's giving it to the other Subaru.
Yeah, we've got the other Subaru behind that as well.
Oh my goodness me, this Toyota is going to get absolutely abused here. That's nothing to do with it being Rich Blues, it's just it's 3 Subarus on 1 Toyota. It won't end well, I'm sure. And the thing is, this battle has just allowed Hay, Fluffy, Bunsel, Twilight and Jimmy to latch onto the back of them as well. And interestingly, I don't know if Dave the Harp is saving fuel or what, but he can't keep pace with Tyler and Jason at the moment.
Yeah, Jason just goes a little bit wide. I don't know if there was a tap there from Tyler.
Probably. Knowing Tyler, yeah, there was. But yeah, side by side they go through the final corner. I was trying to say earlier, I mean, Brands Hatch is one of those tracks I absolutely love, but I've never really learned all of the track names, and I've been trying to this week, but I keep forgetting. So I know
corner names.
Yeah, the corner names. So I know that there's Paddock Hill, and there's Paddock Hill Bend, and then there's Druids, and I know that there's a Surtees, and after that I'm a bit stuck. Oh no, there's Hawthorns as well, which I think is the right-hander at the end of the first straight. The big
Say my local circuit's Crofton, we have a Hawthorns there I think as well.
Interesting. Oh, Gary trying to go, is he defending? No, yeah, I think Gary's defending to SRI, and where's Demon R gone? I'm thinking Demon R may have pitted.
Yeah, he has dropped back a bit, can't see him coming through yet.
Ooh, SRI trying to squeeze his way past Gary, heading into Surtees, but can he get it slowed down? Gary going for the switchback, but SRI just about covers him off.
Gary just like channeling the inner rallycross in the Subaru there, trying to get on the inside.
Ah, that he is. And interestingly, Tyler's managed to get ahead of Jason, as we saw, and stay ahead of Jason for the moment. So if Demon R has gone for a pit stop now, that would pretty much be a slam dunk 2-stop strategy. You're probably not getting 30 minutes out of a fuel tank here. Although I have heard that in the Toyota, if you do go fuel saving, you may be able to get the 30 minutes, but you're not going to be very quick.
But he's not. The battle he was in, he doesn't want to be fuel saving. He wants to try and maybe undercut all of these guys ahead.
Exactly. Oh, Bunsel! Toyota.
That's definitely not NASCAR style.
No, it's not, and we just saw Demon R there. So, excuse me, Corona. Yeah, Demon R, having made his pit stop, is catching up to the back of him.
Yeah, I'm so glad we have that perspex in between the commentary boxes.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just dying. Carry on.
We've got the 2 VWs in the hairpin here. Jason's still trying to keep on touch with Tyler, as Tyler's now probably going to try and break away.
He's going to try. Whether we will be able to or not, we'll have to wait and see. But SGP is still within.
Are you alive, Dave?
I think so, yeah. I might need some oxygen. Excuse me. I don't know what it is.
I think it's just been one of them races you got too excited too early.
Maybe it is. I've been intaken too much air, that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah, so SGP is still within danger zone of Tyler and Jason, depending on when they pit. I was mentioning about De Minaur, him pitting when he did, and kind of latching onto the back of the pack now. He's going to either have fresher tyres or at least more fuel. But I think you'll be hoping that all of those cars in front of him are going to be heading into the pit soon. That's going to free him up, and then we'll see what happens. As for these two, though, Tyler and Jason having a great battle at the moment. They've pretty much been side by side, or at least front to back, for the first 13 minutes. As there we see De Minaur making a move on Fluffy and trying to attack Rich, as well as Gary's binned it. Oh, he's binned it in the corner. I said the Subarus would be fine.
Yeah, he's just chucked a brake marker board at De Minaur as well for good measure.
Well, I don't know. He's sponsored by Whiff Sugar, but he definitely won't be thinking that that corner is very sweet. Bad pun, that one, I know. But anyway,
yeah,
De Minaur, that was a shocker on it. De Minaur making a move on Rich Blues here, and Fluffy in the
Fluffy's
Alpha.
joined the party again. He went. We saw him off in the first few laps, but he seems to have back up with the pack. He got to be careful of the gravel there.
Oh no, he's nailed Twilight.
Twilight's got to go around the outside of Jimmy. Oh, he's tried it.
You know what? Twilight's got away with one there because Fluffy was. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. He was just out of control. As unfortunately, he tagged the side of Twilight. Oh, Twilight's going now. Oh, and Fluffy's going in the background as well. And interestingly, I mean, I haven't mentioned about this yet. Interestingly, around this track, from what I've been hearing, if your tyres get dirty, it takes a long time to clean them up. So if you go off the track, you have to be so careful. So for the likes of Gary, Fluffy and Twilight, they've got to be careful now, because if they're not, they'll go off at the next corner and the next corner, and it'll get worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, do the VWs need ballast or something? Because this is ridiculous. The 4 VWs have just run away with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the two Steves are already, they're miles ahead, but these two guys are starting to catch up to SGP a little bit. But I mean, we look at the VWs and you think the understeer, but then you just see them through the corners. They just look so smooth, and the guys have really got the dialed in.
Yeah, that they have. David Harp, diving into the pits. He did have a bit more fuel. He could have carried on, but he's decided to go in the pits now. SRI follows him in. So does Fluffy. They've got similar amounts of fuel. So all three of those trying to get a bit of an undercut on those guys around them. As we see Formula Gary trying to make his way. I think he may have had a couple of offs, as I said, after we saw him have his spin. So De Minaur, having made his pit stop, is now ahead of the whole of the pack, and he'll be hoping to see if he can pull away. What'll be interesting is what's going to happen when the likes of the front four start to make their pit stops. Where are they going to drop in?
They don't want to be dropping into this battle because it's been door banging from lap one. So they want to be trying. Do they try and create more of a gap, or do they come out and hope that they can get rid of the pack straight away?
Well, it's an interesting situation, because if they... I think he was trying to avoid the back of Jimmy there, and he's ended up... He's into the bridge. He's done a not a Brundle. He's done a Herbert.
I thought he'd managed to...
where's Rich going?
Rich has got a front left. Oh no, he hasn't. Moment there.
I think he's tagged Twilight. Oh, you know what? I'm hearing that his visor's dropped down and no one's taken the sticker off it, so he can't see at the minute. In other words,
it's all that Jamaican bacon, isn't it?
It could be. In other words, basically, his auto turn off on his TV's just kicked in. Yeah,
damn them TVs.
You know what? I have never used auto turn off, but the amount of people I know that do, and the amount of times it stitches them in races, I find it quite funny. What I will say though, for anyone that does have anything like that, their screen goes off, whatever it may be, hit the pause button. Then your car's going to keep going, and you'll be safe, and you won't nail anyone. You'll be ghosted. But anyway. Rich and Jimmy fighting behind Twilight here. I don't think any of the top four have made their pit stop yet, but I was going to mention, for the likes of Steve F1 and SGP, if they go into fuel save mode now and just try to aim to get halfway through the race, that puts them in a very strong position, because anybody that has already pitted 5 minutes ago, they've got to do another pit stop, as Fluffy is wide again, as he's all over the place, tagging the side of Dave the Harp there. I didn't see exactly what was starting that, but a little bit of tank slapping, and Hayes ended up way off.
Yeah, I've seen Dave the Harps pitted from that 5th place, and look where he found himself.
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm Tyler or Jason, which I'm not, I would be looking at where Dave the Harp has come out, if I can, because they'll know what gap they had ahead of him, and Dave the Harp is being compromised now. And
Yeah.
Dave, go on.
They're all fighting each other now, so I think Tyler and Jason, depending on obviously how much fuel they put in it, whether they take tyres now, should be alright.
SRI's ran wide again where Gary binned it earlier. SRI, clearly, he's been through that grassy bit a few times before, because he's gone through it twice and he's survived it twice. Gary,
There must be a crate of beer out there or something for him, because he seems to be wanting out there and party. Well, Fluffy does both of them.
See, now that's the thing with the Alpha. It's so strong in the corners. The problem is the Subaru's going to come right back at him on the straight, and there's also a Bunsell in a Toyota down the inside, and he's going to try and make the move on Fluffy. He manages to squeeze through. That's going to compromise Fluffy because he's just trying to push a Subaru out of the way, and that won't work.
No, he goes down the inside of Bunsell to try and get that position back, but the two Subarus are back in front now, and they should scamper away.
Yeah, I've got to say, this is very exciting stuff at the moment. I mean, it's interesting seeing the different qualities of the cars through the corners. This is now allowing Twilight to run away. It's giving Dave the Harp a bit of a breather that he needs to try and break away from the pack, as well as Rich Blues takes a lot of curb, runs wide. That's going to compromise him all the way down the straight towards Hawthorns. But yeah, SRI, he's got Fluffy in his slipstream, but the Alpha's not quite quick enough in the straight against the Subaru.
This is the longest line for 7th place. People trying to get through who've made pit stops, and just everyone carnage basically. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'll tell you what, SRI's really closed up to Dave the Harp through the corners. I'm wondering if Dave the Harp is not pushing this Alpha hard enough through the corners, or not quite got the balance of the car right for himself yet, because that Alpha should be the strongest car through all of the corners really. As we have a look at Steve F1, he's looking comfortable. You know what, we're 19.5 minutes through the race, which means they're going to be doing a one stop, because they'll probably pit at the end of this lap. Jason and Tyler not too far behind them. They should be safe.
Yeah,
they should be safe. Looking at where the pack is now coming round across the start-finish line, they're going to come out and there'll be plenty of space.
Yeah, Demon R, we saw him pit earlier on, and this will be why, to give him this space on the track right now. He's got a full tank of fuel, or maybe not full now, but he's got the opportunity to try and break away as Dave Harp is battling with SRI. SRI trying to make his way through in the corners. I suppose Alpha versus Subaru, the Subaru has the potential of being just as good through the corners, and it's gone. Dave the Harp getting physical with a Scooby. It's not going to end well. That Scooby weighs about 2 ton.
Yeah, just thinking about the Dave the Harp situation. He seemed to be alright in the first few laps. You know, he was leading top 3, and then I think he's dropped into this pack and it's just upset his rhythm a bit.
Yeah, you could be absolutely right there, and he's got Fluffy right behind him, who's also in the Alpha. I mean, it's one of those things as well. I mean, it could be a case of pushing a little bit harder to try and break away, and unfortunately going slower. It's so easily done. Oh, it's Fluffy trying to make a move on Gary, but Jimmy was already there. But that's put Jimmy all out of shape now. Fluffy survives that one just about, as it looks like Tyler, he's heading to the pits, so is Jason. How much fuel have these got? Yeah, how much fuel have they got? Oh, 5 and 7%. Yeah, they would not have got another lap. But I can tell you, Steve F1 and SGP have both gone on for another lap. They've been fuel saving for some time.
They've been fuel saving and they're still pulling away. That's scary pace.
Well, I'll get onto that in a moment, because it is fascinating and it's interesting. I mean, people will be wondering how the bloody hell they're able to do that, but it kind of hints at what we were just saying about Dave the Harp. Dave the Harp now being in this battle, he's pushing hard as Jason comes out right behind SRI. Tyler right in front of SRI. Yeah, so Dave the Harp's trying as hard as he can to get away from these guys, but he just can't quite do it. The lap times aren't there for him. If you're out in front all on your own and you're cruising, you can save fuel and go so much faster than these guys who are battling. And it's that battle that makes the difference, or a big portion of the difference, as to being able to just be consistent and drive and drive and drive.
Yeah, I just noticed a difference there depending on obviously how much fuel they both put in, but just Jason was right on Tyler, and then they've come out the pits, and one car's made the difference between them. And Jason wants to try and get past SRI as soon as he can.
Well, one thing we don't know is I've got a feeling that both of them may have taken tyres, because the difference of taking tyres, as Steve F1 is not into the pits, but SGP is. Demon R is still going, so SGP has managed to have 3% of fuel left, but Steve F1 is going on for another lap. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, you think about a front-wheel drive understeering car. If you're looking after it in the corners, you're looking after your tyres, you're saving fuel, and if you're also able to carry a bit of pace with it because you're not pressured, it can make things a lot easier. As Tyler has broken away from Jason and SRI, he's now on the back of Twilight. SGP, is he going to need a full tank of fuel? Maybe, maybe not. But with tyres, if you don't take tyres, your pit stop's about 14 seconds. If you do, it's 20 seconds. So I think that Tyler and Jason took tyres, and that's what's just dropped them into the front of the pack here.
Yeah, but if they have took tyres, then they'll be comfortable later on in the race. But they want to try and get away now. As I think Tyler's in the better position here. He's got a Toyota ahead of him. Is he? Yeah, it's still ahead of him, but you got Jason behind. He's got the SRI and the Subaru right on him, and you know, it's not a car you want to have in your mirrors.
It's not. The interesting thing as well is obviously Tyler and Jason, they're full of fuel now, but the likes of Twilight, SRI, Dave the Harp, and all those cars behind, there's a good chance they're going to be on much lighter fuel loads. So the likes of Tyler's not just going to drive up to the back of Twilight and drive past him on the straight, because Twilight's got a much lighter car. However, he is going to need to pit again. Surely this has got to be Steve F1 heading into the pits, and yes it is. So let's see how much fuel he had left. Oh, 2%. So yeah, he was cutting it fine, let's put it that way. But is he going to come out ahead of SGP, or is SGP going to have been able to have got an undercut on him? I've got to say, SGP must be getting past him here, unless Steve F1 either short fills or doesn't take tyres and SGP does.
Yeah, Steve F1's already out.
Oh my goodness me. Yeah.
He's already gone. So I think SGP's got tyres and Steve F1 didn't.
I think you're absolutely right there. Looking at the gap, let's see, I'm going to try and count it for a moment. So Steve F1 heading towards one of the corners. Yeah, it is around about 6 second gap between Steve F1 and SGP. So that suggests to me, yeah, definitely Steve F1 not taking tyres, SGP does. Jason has closed in on the back of Tyler now. I mean, that's fascinating stuff. If SGP hadn't taken tyres, he'd have been right on Steve F1. But I'm guessing he feels he wouldn't have had the life in him.
It just shows how comfortable Steve F1 is. You know, out in front, saving tyres, and he's been able to come in and not even taking new tyres.
Yeah, definitely. Interestingly, Demon R with his early pit stop has managed to get up to second place now, but he's going to have another pit stop to do at some point, so it's going to be crucial as to where he feeds back into the race, especially when you consider that Tyler and Jason, they're battling for third place at the moment, and they've got a bit of a gap to Dave the Harp in sixth, but I think Dave the Harp's going to need to pit again.
Yeah, it seems to have settled down in that mid-pack now. Everyone's spread out a bit if we look at the cars coming through in the background.
Yeah. You know what, Connor, right? We're 26 minutes through this race. I've not done a joke on you yet, so I'm openly going to say, I'm going to tell you a joke now, and it's a car joke, right? You ready? It's Demon R is into the pits.
I'll prepare myself.
Are you ready for this? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Conrad, bang!
Is that why he's not here this week?
Someone will get that. Someone will get that. If your Conrad's knocking, he's going to go bang.
I was saying he's not here this week.
He's not. But yeah, if your Conrad's knocking, you've got problems. Your engine's going to go bang. But anyway, so Demon R has made his pit stop, and he's come back out ahead of Bunce, losing 6th place, because Dave the Harp has pitted at the same time as Demon R. So Tyler and Jason have managed to get ahead of Demon R, but interestingly, I mean,
not that far behind them, is he?
No, and he's done 2 stops. So I've got to say, yes, the VWs may look strong, but they're looking strong in the hands of Steve F1 and SGP. Now, for Demon R to be right up the chuff of Tyler and Jason having done an extra pit stop, I think that kind of shows where the Toyota should really be in reference to the VW. I think it's just unfortunate that those guys in the Subarus and the Alphas either haven't been able to get the practice in, or unfortunately haven't found how to get the most out of the car, because this is again a track where really the VW should not be strong, but nobody's really been able to pressure them. I mean, we're seeing Tyler and Jason going at it here, but this is just going to compromise them and allow Demon R to close in on them.
Yeah, I think they've been battling for that long as well. They're holding each other up a bit now, as we see SRI coming past Fluffy.
That we do. Nice move there from SRI. He should be able to hold on to that position all the way through to Druids, but we'll have to wait and see.
I tell you, I was expecting Jimmy to be further up than he is, because I'd expect Jimmy in a Subaru to be, you know, one of the leading Subarus and not so far behind.
I'd agree with you. I don't know whether he's been able to get much practice on, or whether he's trying to save fuel and do less pit stops. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the faster way, at least not around a track like this. I mean, okay, yeah, the leaders have only done a one stop, but I would imagine that they were prepared for doing two stops if they had to push and burn fuel. And when you're in a pack like Jimmy tends to be, as Twilight battling to get past formerly Gary, yeah, if Jimmy's saving fuel, unfortunately he's not going very fast and he's saving fuel, whereas he'd probably be much better off just turn that engine up, go for it, and if you have to do the extra pit stop, do it, but do it at a time where you can gain. There's Gary trying to close in on Twilight again, but Twilight's catching up to Fluffy.
Yeah, this pack's closed in again. I did say they'd spread out and settle down a bit, but it's going to kick off again.
Yeah, it definitely is, as Fluffy nearly dipped a wheel off the track there. Gary giving Twilight a little bit of a nudge up the hill into the tricky right-hander, and here comes Jimmy. So yeah, Jimmy may have been saving a bit of fuel there, but because those guys got close, he's now caught up, so I can kind of understand saving fuel at certain times, but I think over the course of the whole race you might be better off just pushing for it, as yeah, I don't think there's anywhere for Gary to go there, as Fluffy and Twilight completely close the door on him as Bunsel's heading to the pit lane, and that's going to free up SRI.
Yeah, I just noticed that Dave the Harp as well, he seems to have, I don't know whether he's pitted again or he's just dropped back a bit, but he doesn't seem to be having a strong second. Oh, as we have contact in the first corner, Jimmy comes through.
Aye, that he does. Gary got a bit too sideways there, tagged the side of Fluffy, and Gary manages to let him through. And there is Dave the Harp trying to sneak through again as well. I don't know if something had happened to Dave the Harp or not, or yeah, I mean, I know he pitted at the same lap as Demon R did, I think, but after that I'm not entirely sure what's happened to him, unfortunately.
That Sugar Subaru seen the better days, hasn't it? Look at that.
Yeah, it definitely has. It definitely has, but it's not the worst looking Subaru I have seen, that is for certain. Oh, someone was big sideways just then. Yeah, who's that? That's... I don't know. Who was that? It may have been Bunsel, I think, spinning in certain.
Was it here? Was it not here?
It might have been, you know, it could have been, as Dave the Harp's having a look at Fluffy trying to attack him. And so, oh, Jimmy's gone wide. Oh,
can he keep it? Yes, he has. Just got away with that one.
That's one of the benefits of the Subaru, but the problem is now he's got dirty tyres. Now he's going to be in danger. Twilight's going to try and capitalise. A little bit of contact between the two of them. Jimmy's sideways and off he goes. I don't know if that was forced by Twilight or the dirty tyres as well. Oh, Twilight's really getting his elbows out. He's stuck Fluffy off now.
Yeah, there's a lot of bumping and barging going on now.
Normally I wouldn't. Well, I don't know what to say about that. It's unusual for Twilight to be in incidents like that. I don't know exactly what happened, but there we go. Dave the Harp coming under attack now from Jimmy on one side, Gary on the other. Two Subarus. Gary's got the inside line. Oh, I think Dave the Harp went for the inside line as well, but I think Jimmy may have just tagged the back of Dave, and that's boosted him past Gary.
Yeah, it's getting a bit more towards what we've seen in the first half of the race, but no serious dramas apart from a couple of the Subarus venturing off into grass. And I mean, the front guys though, we look at Tyler and Jason battling each other. Now Demon R's right on the back of them.
Yeah, that he is. We've got, 8 minutes to go, so third place is definitely well up for grabs, as Tyler, who is now a race winner, has had Jason fill in his mirrors for quite some time, and if Jason has been biding his time to make this attack, then yeah, he might regret that if he ends up being attacked by Demon R. I mean, I know you were saying a moment ago that we've seen the Subaru sort of taking a few ventures across the grass, which we have. It'll be interesting to see how these guys get on if they start battling as well, because sometimes, I mean, you just have to think about the longer game. It's like, yeah, you might be in 7th place and there might be a car in front of you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna get past them or you have to get past them. Sometimes you just have to accept your fate as it is.
Yeah, and just look at Steve F1 there. He's just coasting, isn't he? He just looks so comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, there is a big difference between being under pressure and not under pressure, and he's definitely not under pressure here. SGP also not under pressure in 2nd place. We've still got the battle though going on between David Harp and Jimmy. It looked like Jimmy was trying to make a move towards the corner then. Dave hadn't decided to turn in yet as Gary nearly goes wide on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. That's allowed Hay through as David Harp and Jimmy still going at it through Druids. Jimmy trying to go for a switch back, can't quite get it done, and that may give Hay an opportunity down into the left-hander.
Yeah, he just tried a move then, it didn't quite work, but his mindset, he has got back onto the back of Dave and he's going to make a move actually. Yeah,
that he is, up the inside into Surtees, a corner that we've seen Dave struggle with. Dave's going for a switchback though, manages to get it to work. Question is, has the Subaru got the power? Yes, it has.
There's a lot of there's a lot of door banging going on, isn't there?
Well, it's interesting. It's kind of like Dave was saying, I'm not going to move over, so yeah, deal with a bit of grass. But Jimmy, he may run a little bit wide here now as Gary closes in, and Hay and Rich. Hay backing out of the move on Gary, which is a wise decision at that point. Jason now going defensive from Demon R.
Yeah, just going back to the Alpha versus Subaru, it's so easy for the Alpha to just commit the Subaru to the inside and get the cutback because it's so stable in the corners.
Yeah, definitely is. This Demon R's got a decent run here on Jason, heading down the start-finish straight, and we can see what the difference of 2 cars battling can make, because Jason has now dropped off from the back of Tyler. Demon R having a look a bit around the outside, or is he going for the switchback as Davey Harper is heading to the pits, is he? No, pit wall! Oh no, oh no, oh no.
3-point turn.
I'm guessing...
Can he get...
I'm guessing that was not an intentional effort to go to the pits. So yeah, dipping a wheel in the gravel on the final corner. It's so easily done, especially if you're in a bit of a fight there. But that is really going to have annoyed Davey Hart now, as Jimmy is battling with Hay side by side, and Bunsell has got in on this as well. Oh, Jimmy all sorts of sideways there.
That was a weird moment. The car just seemed to snap back on him.
It did. If it had been in any other car, it would have been facing the wrong bloody direction, you lucky sod. But at the end of the day, that's what the Subaru in this category is about, is to give those drivers that have found a bit of a struggle in the past a little bit more stability. And I do think it is helping, that's for certain. Hey, you're trying to make a move now on Jimmy. Jimmy's having absolutely none of it. Bunsel's around the outside, got to be careful. Dip a wheel in that Toyota. There's only one way you're going, and that's sideways. Demon R still on the back of Jason, but Jason's closed in on Tyler now.
Yeah, it looks like this is going to be a 3-way battle for 3rd place all the way to the end now, as we enter the last 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah, now the interesting thing here as well is that if Tyler or Jason needed to do any fuel saving to get to the end, that could cost them massively now, because with Demon R doing the 2-stop, he's not going to need to fuel save. He can just push. Jason trying to make a move on Tyler. Tyler gives him the room, but Jason can't quite throw it in there. That's the difficulty of the tyres, front-wheel drivers. Demon R now having a look up the inside into Druids. Can he make it? Oh.
It's tight. Jason just tried to pinch the nose of him there, and he's going to go side by side into this next left-hander.
It was a good battle, but unfortunately the VW's got the better acceleration out of the corner over the Toyota. So it was a good attempt, good racing, but yeah, not a lot Demon R can do. He's going to have to find somewhere else to overtake if he can. Now this is a corner I would expect the VWs to struggle with a bit of understeer, and Demon R trying to get a decent run on Jason, but once again Tyler manages to break away.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very hard for Demon Art to pass Jason rather than Jason on Tyler.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I mean, maybe Demon Art would be better off just leaving Jason alone and let him go and battle Tyler, and then hope that a mistake is made as we see two Subaru side by side. That's Gary and Rich, and then we've got Jimmy and Fluffy next to each other as they manage to get through the Hawthorne bend as Twilight sideways in the Toyota.
Yeah, we've got Bunsell right at the back now as these guys are still battling. Gary again just dipped 2 wheels.
He likes doing that. Does Gary dipping his wick? Oh no, and now he's just nudged the back of someone. He's going to have to be careful. So he's got Hay all over the back of him as well, and Bunsell. And yeah, Hay coming in hard on the brakes, but can't do anything about Gary. Gary's now got Fluffy in between himself and the Subaru ahead, but once again, it's close for that 3rd, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, SRI's seems to have broken away on his own in 6th place and looks pretty nailed on for that. Bearing in mind nothing happens.
Yeah, you could be absolutely right. I mean, last week he couldn't see Jason. He was right next to him. This time he can't see Jason because he's half a minute down the road. But Jason and Tyler have been having a great battle throughout the whole of this race. And I mean, what I would say is if there wasn't 2 Steves in this race, then we'd have a great battle for the lead right now. But we have, and Stephen F1 and SGP have pretty much checked out. There's a big gap between them.
Got a great battle for 7th, though, haven't we?
That we have. Twilight's, well, I was going to say he's just about out of reach, but I don't think he is. Formula Gary's just close enough to get the slipstream as well. So Twilight's really coming under pressure, and so is Tyler actually. Ooh, Demon R's going to be careful dipping a wheel up there, but yeah, Tyler's coming under a lot of pressure through the middle sector. I'm wondering if Tyler keeps having to save fuel, you know.
Yeah, it does look like he manages to pull away and then he struggles 2 laps later.
Yeah, it is possible. Ooh, yeah, you don't want to be doing that. Yeah, it's possible that he's using his power down the straights and then in the middle sector, perhaps turning the engine down a little bit.
Yeah, we've got the 2 Steves just entering on the final lap now.
You're absolutely right, they are. That has gone through very, very quickly, and that means that if Jason wants to do anything about Tyler, he's going to have to do it this lap because he's not going to get another opportunity. Demon R has dropped off a little bit. That's going to allow Jason to try and attack down towards turn 1, but no, he can't do it. Druid is a place where people always like to have a look, so Tyler may have to defend. Jason's looking, Tyler doesn't defend.
Yeah, he's gone a bit wide there. Was he being too cautious? And Demon I just gets feel happy in the background watching them battle.
It does. Jason manages to get through, but now he's gone wide. Oh, his opportunity was there and he's absolutely ruined it. Oh, Tyler, I think he tried to move across thinking he was ahead, but he wasn't. Jason now trying to do a switchback. That's going to close in Demon R on them as well. Oh, this could be interesting as these two get side by side. Yes, they do. Oh, my days. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go, Demon R? What are you going to do? Because there's nowhere in front of you can go, I don't think.
He wants to hope one of these guys gets pushed off from the outside of this corner.
I think you're absolutely right there. So as they go side by side, their understeer kicks in. Demon R's so much faster through that corner. He's up the inside of Jason, is he? No, yes. No, he's too much off their track. And that's, yeah, I think that might be opportunity gone.
Yeah, it's just got very close there, but Demon Arm wasn't managed to get past them.
Jason on the grass. Just want to mention Steve F1 is yeah, there he is, heading on to the start finish straight.
What a win.
Yeah,
what a win.
He's backed off as well, but he's absolutely dominant here. SGP is going to take 2nd place. Who's going to have 3rd? Is it going to be Tyler? He's held that position for so long. Jason stole it off him earlier in the lap. Oh, Demon R big sideways again. Is Tyler going to hold on to it? It's ever so close. I don't think Jason can do it. He can't. It's 3rd for Tyler, 4th for Jason, 5th for Demon R. SRI in 6th place. He managed to break away from the pack. I've got to say it's a good result for him, and Twilight, he's managed to survive. I think he'll be delighted finishing in 7th place, seeing all of those behind him. And it's Bunsell, Dave Hart, Jimmy, Hay, Fluffy, and then we've got Rich Blues and Formula Gary. I'm guessing something must have happened with those two for them to be that far back, because we saw Gary much further up a few laps ago.
I think it was that last lap as well, because his lap times weren't too bad until that last lap there.
Yeah, you could be absolutely right. I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those things. Sometimes when you've got a battle like we had for third place there, you're not going to be able to see everything that happens further down. And okay, some people might say, well, why don't you just put replays in? If there's one thing we always said we hated about Formula 1, it was replay. And to be fair, for anyone that doesn't know, the way that the footage is recorded in the DGT League is in one go. There's no second takes, there's no rewinding, catch this bit. It's right, start recording, off you go, this is who you're looking at. And it's done like that for a few reasons. But anyway, I've got to say, absolutely fantastic racing around Brands Hatch.
Yeah, it's just one of them tracks that promotes door banging and real hard racing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's one of those. I know the admins have said before that Brands Hatch is one of those tracks that they could quite easily just never race at, because unfortunately it does result in cars dipping a wheel on the grass and ending up in big crashes or going off massively, or if someone makes a mistake it can affect a lot of people. But at the end of the day, it's a brilliant bloody racetrack, and I think sometimes you can get a few cars that are right to drive around that track. There's some, I mean, I don't think it's wise to take, for example, Group 1s around Brands Hatch, because if you dip a wheel there, yeah, you're not going to survive it. But I've got to say, I mean, everyone in DGT League knows that Steve F1 loves Brands Hatch, and if there's one thing you can't give Steve F1 at Brands Hatch, it's a margin. And unfortunately, he got that early on, and once he was in that position, he was untouchable, which is a shame. But at the same time, you just got to hats off to him.
Yeah, it was just that ability to go around the outside of Dave the Harp on the straight before you even needed to worry about the next corner.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at that point as well, it would have disheartened Dave the Harp enough that he may have felt that he couldn't do anything to attack back on Steve F1, and unfortunately SGP got held up behind Dave the Harp, so could never really close that gap in to Steve F1. I mean, as I say, Tyler and Jason, great battle throughout the whole of the race, and I must admit, I mean, it's kind of blowing my own trumpet a bit here, but I do think it's a bit of a shame that at the start Demon R was swamped, because the reason being, at this track the Toyota was good, and we saw that at the end, that with 2 stops he was able to compete with Tyler and Jason. Well, if he hadn't have been at the back after the first corner, and the normal thing would have happened at the start, which is the Toyotas end up ahead of the VWs, all of a sudden then you'd have Dave the Harp leading with potentially a Demon R, a couple of Subarus, then the VWs. It's a different race then.
I think it would have been a different race even if Dave the Harp had managed to stay alongside of Steve F1 going into the next corner, and SGP would have been a bit closer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is as well, I think Dave the Harp was unfortunate that he pitted when he did, because when Dave pitted, he came out right in that pack and he was stuck there for a little too long, and that then dictated, I think, the rest of his race. I mean, sometimes, yeah, going for the early stop and going for an undercut is the right thing to do, but it only works if you're not in traffic. I think in that scenario Dave may have been better off, because I think he had 25% of fuel, so he'd have got another 2 laps out of it. If he'd have gone those extra 2 laps and then pitted, he would have had less time in that pack, which may have benefited him much more later on. But anyway, yeah, I've got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed watching that race. I mean, for the next one though, I can say the VW drivers have done some practice at the next track, and they're not looking forward to it. And the next track is Catalunya.
Oh yeah, I can see why.
Yes. Now, I've watched them do some practice around that track, and interestingly, they can't even go full throttle around the final corner. If they do, they will wide and go off, which means that the VW straight line speed is negated. Because, I mean, for example, I know that Demon R in an Alfa Romeo right in front of a VW, the VW couldn't overtake him down the main straight. because of the speed the VW can't take around the final corner. And that's one of those things about finding out what works in what car. The VWs are going to struggle like mad in Catalunya, but what they may be able to do is go, right, okay, we're taking pain at this one, let's just look after the fuel, look after the tyres, do one less stop. That may be the way they go, and that could still be quick, but over the course of 1 or 2 laps in qualifying, or a stint of laps, their lap times I don't think are going to be there. Now I know that SRI did a bit of practice in the Subaru and was 2 seconds a lap faster than the VWs.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that comes with massive fuel burn costs, but it's alright, in 10 laps you're 20 seconds ahead.
There's a pit stop, yeah. You need to get new tyres as well.
Quite possibly. Or do you in the Subaru? The VW will, because it's going to kill those tyres all the way around that track. Now don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be surprised if the VW drivers are going to spend quite a bit of time working out a way to drive the VW around that track. So if we come to the next race and the VWs are strong, don't blame me. It just means that the drivers have worked out how to cope with that car around that track. But I've driven all of those cars around that track. The VW is horrible. The Toyota is actually pretty good. It's got decent straight line speed. The Alfa, if you get the understeer, because interestingly the Alfa's got a little bit of understeer, but if you get that under control, it is absolutely rapid around all of the corners, and the fact it's so fast through the final corners gives it enough of a gap that I think people will struggle to overtake down the start finish on an Alfa if the drivers can get those corners right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if the VW struggle in qualifying. They're going to struggle off the start, and then we're really going to have a race.
Yeah, well, the thing is, as we know, the VWs do struggle off the start. I wouldn't be surprised if a VW starting on pole would end up 4th to last by turn 1. It's a long run to that first corner, and we've seen already the Subarus can get from 8th to 1st if there's a long enough straight. So a Subaru around 8th, 9th, they can get to the front. There's going to be Alphas in there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I really hope the VWs have an absolute bloody nightmare. I think everybody else does as well, to be honest, but anyway, we'll have to wait to see. Connor, I just want to say thank you very much for joining me on the commentary.
Yeah, no problem, it's been a pleasure.
No worries. And just to finish things off, I just thought I'd let everybody know that I used to hate facial hair, but then it grew on me. There you go, that's your 2 jokes for the day. I'm not doing any others. So time to have a look at the confirmed race results and see what that's done to the championship standings. So here we go then with the confirmed race results. Steve F1 taking the victory again. SGP 2nd place, Tyler 3rd, Jason, I had a great battle with Tyler, takes the 4th place. Demon R finished in 5th with SRI lonely 6th. Twilight, a fantastic result for him in 7th. And then we've got Bunsel, who unfortunately gets another penalty for a first lap incident on this race, but thankfully not a last lap incident this time. David Hart finished in 9th place. I think he'll be a little frustrated with that. Ahead of, he did finish though ahead of Jimmy in 10th place, but Jimmy unfortunately scores 6 points but loses them all due to an incident on the final lap which affected his so-called mate's race, definitely. Okay, Hay finished in 11th place, it's 5 points for him. Fluffy Planet, a tough one for him, finishing in 12th place, bagging 4 points. Rich Blues, as I mentioned, was absolutely annihilated. Okay, it wasn't, but he was tagged by Jimmy and ended up dropping to 13th place on the last lap. And formerly Gary was very unfortunate, he drops to 14th but also scores 2 points but loses them unfortunately due to a penalty. Sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Okay, what has that done then to the drivers' standings, really? After 4 races, the VWs have won all 4 races. That was not what we were expecting. Steve F1 leads the way though on 75 points, and he's got one hand on the championship already. SGP sits in 2nd place on 62 points, and not far behind him is Tyler in 3rd. Demon R sits in 4th place on 50 points, and there's a 12-point gap back to SRI, who's still sitting in 5th place. I wonder if he's feeling alright. Jason, he's in 6th place now, 1 point ahead of Dave the Harp, who's in 7th. We then got Rich Blues, a fantastic position for him at the moment, 24 points, 8th place. And then we got Mitch and Twilight, joint 9th place, both on 23 points. Unfortunately, Mitch unable to race recently. Hopefully we'll see him back on the track soon. Formerly Gary, he's sitting in 11th place on 17 points, 1 ahead of Fluffy in 12th place and 1 ahead of Connor in 13th. We then got a bit of a gap to Hay, whose points aren't correct on my screen, so I'm going to need to fucking change that, you cunt. Right, nobody will know that I've changed that, they can easily edit it, it's no problem. So Hay sitting in 14th place on 14 points ahead of Jimmy and Bunsel, who are both tied on in 15th place on 7 points. Well, it's been an absolutely fantastic race around the Brands Hatch circuit, and next up is going to be the Catalunya Grand Prix circuit, otherwise known as Barcelona or something like that. Spain, it's in España. So yeah, it could be a very interesting race. From what we've seen and what we mentioned earlier on, the VW should struggle around that track. So maybe we'll give somebody else a chance to win, seeing as they're hogging all the action at the moment. I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for watching and listening, and feel free to like, subscribe, and yeah, join us next week for as much as the action as we can capture from the Catalunya Grand Prix circuit for race 5 of 9 of the Dynamic GT League Special 4 Cup. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you all again soon.